Hey, shalom everyone. This is Chris Shoemaker, also known as Yehuda ben Shomer, and welcome to the Daily Drosh. Today's Daily Drosh is taken from Luke chapter 6, verse 6, and I'm going to be reading from the Living Bible paraphrase. On another Sabbath, he, Yeshua, was in the synagogue teaching, and a man was present whose right hand was deformed. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees watched closely to see whether he would heal the man that day, since it was the Sabbath, for they were eager to find some charge to bring against him. Now it just struck me as I was reading this that this man with the deformed hand may not have been a regular synagogue attendee, at least at that synagogue. But I suspect, by the wording of the scripture, that he was planted there by the Pharisees and the teachers of the law for the sole purpose of trapping Yeshua. Because they wanted to bring a charge against Yeshua. They considered healing, the act of healing on the Sabbath, they considered that a form of work instead of a good deed, a preservation of life, which the Torah has nothing against. Yeshua brought out the argument many times that if your ox or sheep or animal is in the ditch on the Sabbath, you'll do whatever you can to bring it out, even though it's work to bring it out of the ditch, because there was an understanding of the law that there was a principle of life over law. If a life was in danger, then you could break the rules of the Sabbath in order to preserve life. So it was the principle of life over law. And Yeshua took this same approach in regards to this man who had the withered hand. I'm sure that Yeshua in his divinity probably knew that he was a trap, a plant, but he was going to use it anyway. Many times in the scripture, it says that Yeshua knew the thoughts of the Pharisees, their innermost thoughts or their whispers that couldn't be heard by other people. And Yeshua called them out on the carpet because he knew, and they were amazed that, man, how did he know that? How did he know we were thinking that? Or how did he hear that? So he healed this man on the Sabbath day. And of course, they wanted to bring a charge against him regarding that, and it was a trap. And it was the same thing when the scribes and the Pharisees questioned him about giving taxes to the Roman government, and he so wisely replied, "Give me a coin. Let me see a coin." He says, "Whose image is on this coin?" Everybody's like, "Well, it's Caesar's." He's like, "Well, give to Caesar what's Caesar's. His face is on it, must belong to him, and render to God what is God's." And it was such a wise reply that it just shut the Pharisees and the teachers of the law down. And it also reminds me back in the Tanakh, the Old Testament, in the book of Daniel, where Daniel was so squeaky clean that that his enemies, his adversaries, couldn't find anything to bring against him. They couldn't dig up any dirt on this guy to bring to the king so that they could get rid of him. So they had to convince the king to make some ridiculous law that couldn't be changed, called the law of the Medes and the Persians. And they said, hey, everybody knows that kings are representative of deity, that they're demigods. And, we think so much of you, king. Let's have everybody pray to you for the next 30 days. And whoever doesn't will be considered breaking the law, and they'll be punished accordingly. And in his megalomania, I guess, or in his thinking highly of himself, the king's like, sure, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And of course, they knew that Daniel would pray to no one but the God of Israel, the God of heaven and earth. And so, of course, he prayed faithfully like a faithful Jew 3 times a day. So in the afternoon, he would go out onto his balcony facing east, facing Jerusalem, and pray in the sight of everybody. And so that's when they nabbed him. And they said, yeah, you broke the law. And as a result, he was thrown into the lion's den. But God saved him. He shut the mouths of the lions, these hungry lions, and as a result, he survived the night and therefore fulfilled the punishment of the law because he was there for that allotted time. And his enemies that conspired against him were thrown in, and before their bodies even hit the floor, they were ate up, killed, and devoured by the lions. So what's my point in the Daily Drosh is that, yeah, people are going to try to set traps against you. And the only way they're going to trap you is in your righteousness, is in your good deeds, is in your obedience to God and your obedience to Torah above the laws of man. And so whenever you're faced with that, always go with God, because he's got your back. He will rescue you. Yeshua was rescued. Many times they wanted to throw him off a cliff, and it says he walked just right through and got away. He escaped because it wasn't his time to die for man. And Daniel escaped the lion's den. There's a lot of people. Elijah escaped the wicked Jezebel because he stood up for what's right, even in the face of death. Even though it looked like imminent death, they did what's right regardless, because they're like, hey, if I live or die, I live or die for the Lord. And the three Hebrew children thrown in the fiery furnace because they refused to worship anything but the God of Israel, and as a result, they survived the fiery furnace. So, and what they said was pretty amazing. It said, even if God doesn't rescue us from this fire, we know he can, but even if he doesn't, we still won't bow down to your stupid mountain of gold, your idol. So do what's right no matter what, and watch God miraculously deliver you and bring glory and honor to his name. Hey, thanks for listening. Shalom and Shavua Tov. Shalom, everyone. This is Chris Shoemaker, also known as Yehuda Ben Shomer, and I'm the founder of AbrahamsDescendants.com. I just wanted to make you aware that there were two different blogs on the website that you can take advantage of. The first of which is the Abraham's Descendants blog, in which every week I post a blog dealing with the Messianic or Nazari Jewish lifestyle. The second of which is my personal blog called Yehuda's Blog. And on there I post a blog each and every day, and it could be anywhere from a commentary to a teaching to an observation to my personal thoughts or an article on the Messianic Nazari faith. Hope to see you there. Shalom.